Hello everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I see someone is already here. Welcome. Please confirm you can hear me and see me. Please confirm. Thank you for joining us. Today is going to be very interesting. Okay, just bringing this closer. Please confirm. I need one person to say I can hear you or see you. Very key before we dive right in. Welcome. If you know someone that will benefit from this, please make sure you have sent them the link to join you so that you are here. I'm just testing the mic and good. Okay, so we are going to get started. Today we're going to be looking at an interesting topic, which is Montessori math, cognitive development, and executive functioning. If you're just joining us, please let us know where you are joining from and let me know if you love mathematics or not. Also, make sure you invite somebody. Okay, just a minute, please. Okay. Please confirm audio and video. Okay, we're just still waiting on that confirmation. We'll give 1 extra minute just to make sure before we get started. Okay, just going to check in again. Confirm audio. Audio and video. Okay, just a minute, please. All right, so we are going to go ahead. I believe I am seen and heard. Just going to take that chance. Yes. So today we're looking at mathematics, Montessori mathematics, cognitive development, and executive functioning. And this is a very important and very interesting topic. I know some of us may have some biases towards math for one reason or the other, but today we are here to break that bias and break that table. My name is Nkem Sinachiagu, and I'm the founder of the Montessori Home Education Academy. We run the Montessori Home Education Program, which is a 12-month program that runs from January to December. For 2025, we already have the registration open. If you're interested, we cover multiple subjects across the Montessori curriculum for 0 to 6-year-olds, right? So, but ultimately it's for parents. Parents join in. They learn very simple activities they can do with their children to be able to imbibe the love of learning and to practice several subject areas with their children, including mathematics, English language, and even their whatever native language they also speak. They also get to do subjects like culture and science, zoology, botany, history, geography, all at the age-appropriate level, in a way. Thank you very much, Temitope. Thank you for confirming. So I was just talking about the subject areas that we cover in the Montessori curriculum, and parents basically join in to learn on and then be able to teach their children in a very simple way using very simple activities. So that is what we do at the Montessori Home Education Academy, and today we're going to dive right into some of the subject areas that we typically cover in a year. And you'll see firsthand how simple the activities can be and the kind of things that you can learn. So if you haven't invited somebody already, please make sure you invite them. Let us know where you're connecting from, Temitope. Thank you for joining. So we will start off with Montessori mathematics. So one thing I would like to see in the chat section is, do you love math or not? Okay, connecting from Canada, welcome. So tell us if you love mathematics or not. What is your relationship with maths? Because people tend to have very special and strong relationships with maths. It's either they like it or they don't like it. So let us know in the chat, how do you feel about mathematics? Because today we're about to. Oh, awesome. Okay, that is great. So like I put in when I was kind of promoting this video saying people should join in. I said, if you don't love mathematics, we're going to break it down in a way that you see that it's not a bad subject. It's not as bad as it looks sometimes. And if you love it, you're going to learn some things that will make you even love it more, right? So just stay tuned and invite somebody else to join. Thank you very much. So we will start with the fundamentals of Montessori mathematics. One of the things I learned during my training is that it's not about counting from 1 to 100 or counting from 1 to 1,000 or 1 million. That the most important numbers a child needs to know, or a person needs to know, is really numbers 1 to 10. There is this quote from Dr. Maria Montessori that says, children display a universal love of mathematics. And what is mathematics? Which is par excellence, the science of precision, order, and intelligence. So, which means the typical child, loves precision, loves order, loves intelligence. Yes, sometimes it may look as if their work is just to scatter, scatter, scatter. But on average, you might see that they're also good at putting things back in place if they know where a thing should go. So that's why sometimes you might find that in a school setting or a classroom setting where some things may be more organized than our homes, where they have labels for things, children are able to you can say, take this back to the bookshelf or to the puzzle shelf. They know that this is the shelf for this particular item, right? So most of the times in school arrangements or more, robust institutions, those things are in place, right? Compared to our houses where we might feel like, oh, I don't have to put all those labels everywhere. This is not an office. This is not a school. But some of those small things actually help the idea of order to settle in for children, right? So we have some of children, of course, who are more specific and more precise in how they want everything arranged. If you bend something a particular way, they're not happy about that. But generally, Dr. Maria Montessori was basically saying that children are born with a mathematical mind. They love precision, they love order, and they love accuracy and intelligence. So if this is something that children love naturally, it also means that naturally they love mathematics. But what happens is, by the time we go into the school setting, or depending on how we approach it, and we turn mathematics from something that is very tangible, we turn it into something abstract. It now becomes something that is not so enjoyable anymore, especially for children who want to play and learn through play. So the numbers 1 to 10 are one of the most important numbers you can learn and the child can learn. It's similar to how important it is to know the letter sounds. You might recite your ABC song A to Z from now till tomorrow, but it does not help you to read if you can say A, B, C, D. No. It might help you with sequencing. It might help you if you have to arrange something in alphabetical order, but it's not going to help you if you need to actually read a book, because by the time you see apple, you might see yourself saying April, right? Which is not correct. So the numbers 1 to 10, when a child is able to understand these numbers, and even an adult, if you find that you've been struggling with math, just calm down. Let's take it back to the basics, right? Look at the whole idea. Do you know 1 to 10? Then you're already doing great. Because what happens is this. I basically believe that every number that exists, can be broken down into multiples of 10, and then plus or minus numbers 1 to 9, right? So let's look at number 10. That's already a multiple of 10, or 1 and 10, right? We'll give you 10. Look at 20. 20 is a multiple of 10. Two tens, or 2 times 10 is 20, right? 30, 40, whatever number you're looking at is a multiple of 10. 100 is still a multiple of 10. 1000 is a multiple of 10. If you now want to say, okay, 99, right? It's a multiple of 10. 9 times 10 is 90, plus 9. So it's just the same numbers being repeated here and there. You have 1 to 9 as the kind of the basics, and then you have 1 to 10, just that full system, knowing that multiples of 10 make up all those numbers, right? And then when you understand that, you find out that if a child can count from 1 to 10 and actually understands what 1 to 10 means, that okay, I can count, let's say 10 objects. Okay, these are different colors. Ideally, I'll use the same color if I'm trying to talk about counting in numbers. But if I count 1, 2, and a child is seeing that, okay, for every item I pick, I'm saying 1, 2, 3, right? So these are the quantities. So when a child understands numbers as quantities and not just something to recite, okay, they recite from 1 to 100, but then they can't even say, for example, that, oh, 100 is bigger than 1. It's just a number to them, right? So that's why it's more important to know that, okay, 1, 2, 3 is actually for counting physical objects, and they can practice counting, physical objects with it. And then, of course, you can also use numbers as a way of keeping time, 10 seconds and all that, right? But really, the fundamental is 1 to 10. And now the other aspect of mathematics that tends to be that should be broken down really is the fact that every mathematical operation is either addition or subtraction. So if you've been worried about, oh, maybe square root was the one that was causing problem for you in school, or squares or multiples of this and that, it all goes back to addition and subtraction. So again, if we take it this in the simplest format, these are things we can easily do at home with our children at this early age, 0 to 6 or whatever age they are. If they are struggling with math, you need to take it back to the basics, right? Understanding quantities and then understanding these two basic operations, addition and subtraction. Now, of course, now you may or may not know, but really multiplication is repeated addition, right? If you do 2 times 4, you can break it down into adding 2 a number of times to itself. If you do 4 minus 2 or 4 divided by 2, it can also be a form of subtraction. So if you're doing any operation that is going to increase the total quantity of numbers or the value, you know, it can be one way or the other connected to addition. And if you're doing any operation that is going to reduce the quantity, it can be connected to subtraction, right? So that is why, plus and minus, addition, subtraction, these are things that are done at the elementary level, the preschool level, sorry, the kindergarten level, and even the preschool level, but without making it such a subject or such an activity, that has to be completed for you to get grade A or A plus and all those things, right? So when we understand these things and we understand that our focus really, the things that we need to teach children for them to have that good foundation in mathematics are things that begin at a very early age. And now you might also know, if you're familiar with sensitive periods, if you've been in our WhatsApp community, and even if you're part of the Montessori home education program for 2024, you would know now that sensitive periods are very key and very crucial in the child's development, because we know that from age 4, children start becoming more interested in spatial awareness, mathematical concepts, which means it is not when they get to grade 1, which is 6, 7 years, that you now start trying to hammer some things down their throat, right? The time when they were primed to receive it, we may be keeping them busy with other things, or we might be saying, oh, they are doing and they're using an educational app on the screen, right? What they need to learn and what they need to do is not on the screen, which is why I like to reemphasize it as often as I can. You know, Playing with stones and sticks is much more valuable to any child than 20 minutes on the screen, 30 minutes on the screen, no matter the educational app or activity you want to call it, especially for 0 to 6 year olds. So ultimately, what we're seeing is that people who do well in maths in a sustainable form. So it's not like, this moment they are doing okay, the next moment they are struggling with it. What they usually have in common is that they've come to the point where they're able to enjoy mathematics, right? They love the thrill of problem solving. I know personally, I love, when I just see a puzzle, or it excites me, like, oh, I want to see if I can solve this, right? I may not solve it eventually, but that excitement of trying to solve something, definitely makes me happy, right? I know, yes, people might say, okay, that's why you're saying math is simple, but it's not really about that. I think, with the way I was raised and with the way I grew up, I was kind of exposed to the idea of problem solving, not for passing exams or for grades, and which is also what the Montessori approach tends to follow. You may have heard in the past couple of videos we've been doing, it's not about grades, especially 0 to 6. You need to make sure that now that they are still, able to enjoy life, take advantage and put this foundation in place for them, so that they are not just looking for, oh, how they can. You don't want to start your child's first mathematical lesson to be pen and paper. No, as much as possible, you want to have already exposed them to what they need to know, with hands-on materials, hands-on activities. And no, tapping on the screen is not hands-on. I know somebody might still bring that argument. So those who do well in math and ultimately enjoy math, they usually enjoy the thrill of problem solving. They have creativity and they enjoy being creative. They also love learning. Like, learning for them is exciting, right? It's not, again, because they are keen on learning something new, they are curious. They also like the growth that comes from cognitive experiences, and ultimately they like the fulfillment that comes from executive functioning activities. So things that look like managing simple projects, which even a child can do, because what is a project, right? Something with a clear beginning and a clear end, and an objective, right? A goal, an output that you're looking to produce. Another interesting Dr. Montessori quote is that the hands are the instruments of man's intelligence. Now, what does that mean? It means that children need to touch, feel, handle objects to be able to move from tangible to intangible. Before they move into the abstract, writing 1 plus 1 on a book, you need to have shown them in real life what is 1 and 1 that they are adding to make two, right? So that is why, as much as possible, things are kept practical. Even in the Montessori environment, we have materials for so many things. Now, it doesn't mean you have to buy all the materials, but really, if you know what you're looking for and the message you're trying to pass across, then you're going to even be able to come up with things on your own. So these are some of the examples we are going to be sharing today. Examples of how you can develop the mathematical mind of a child very easily, without before even going into what is called mathematics as a subject. So, if you're here, please still confirm that you're getting what I'm saying. How many of us are already aware that multiplication, for instance, is repeated addition and division is repeated subtraction? Let me know in the comments. And also, okay, great, great. So also let me know what kind of activities you use so far with your children for mathematics. I believe most of us will have children in that age range of 0 to 6, but if not, even older ones, let us know what you have found helpful for them and what you found helpful for yourself. If you can remember, right, growing up, what were the things that made you to love maths or to not love maths, right? Because some of these examples can help us to connect to why our children may be doing well or struggling. Now, if they're struggling, of course, we might focus on it and say, oh, we want them to start understanding it. But if they are doing well, we also need to know why they are doing well and what is helping with it so that we can put more of that in their environment. Because if you don't know the reason why something is working, then it can also be a matter of time. And then you just say, oh, it suddenly stopped working. Okay, flashcards. That's interesting. So is it like number flashcards or operations? I think Temitope shared. Yes, please let us know. That is very, very interesting. So many things that we can use to be able to develop the mathematical mind of a child. Okay, okay, that's great. Number flashcards. So yeah, so there are many options as long as they're able to touch something. Now, even though the quote says the hands are the instrument of man's intelligence, counting things very, very key. So that's something we're going to look at, right? Even okay, I'm going to share some examples of how we can imbibe these small activities here and there in our everyday life. Right. So I was talking about the quotes that said the hands are the instruments of man's intelligence. So by being able to touch and handle things, it makes learning easier. It helps with memory. It helps with reinforcing the learning that is taking place. Now, but of course, we know that not everybody might be able to use their hands in one way or the other. But the important thing to take away is that you want to incorporate movement, any form of movement at all, and anything to make it tangible, something that they can feel, even if it's not with their hands, something that would get them to move from point A to point B or to move a part of their body in the same context as they are learning something. Right. So as we talked about some of the things that are typical with people who love maths or who are able to love maths continuously, sustainably, and do well in it. We're going to be looking at cognitive development and executive functioning skills. So, maths itself as a subject, yes, focuses on the numbers, the operations, proof formulas here and there. But then the fundamental skills that the child needs is not so much about numbers, but all the things that work in the background. So, two major areas we are going to be looking at is cognitive development and executive functioning skills. So, what is cognitive development? There are many activities that really help with developing the ability of a child to think, to solve problems. And some of I broke it down into three main activities. Of course, there are so many of them, but three main activities that you can do to help to develop the cognitive ability of a child or really anybody is matching activities, sorting activities, and grading. Now, what is a matching activity? We're talking about cognitive activities activities that can help a child to develop their cognitive ability, their thinking brain, basically, right? Their thinking brain, their problem solving brain. Matching activity means being able to pair two things that are the same or similar, together. So here I just brought on the wall, I have this. If you saw our last session, we talked about bilingualism and we talked about the Igbo book that we released recently, myself and Dr. Chido. So this is the book. Is it showing? Yes. So now this book has some letters in it. Of course, you can use any book or any material, but just I'm trying to explain a concept here. Now this is letter A, but in Igbo, well, the sound is actually similar, Igbo and English. So this says A, right? And so this is the same letter from the flashcards that are here. and another copy. Now, ultimately, a matching activity would mean the child will pick a card from here and then look for another letter that is a match, right? So you can just simply come here. So you can say right? You can trace the letter and then do this, right? And the child can do this for all 36 letters of the Igbo alphabet. If you're using the English alphabet, that's 26 letters. So you can just have two. Basically, what I like to do is that if I have a printable I like to make two copies. So you have one as the baseline, and then the other one is the working set, right? So you can even just pick a random card. It must not always be in order, right? I can pick Z. This is letter Z that says Z. And then I can now start trying to find it. Initially, the child may not even know the sequence of the letters, right? But doing this activity often and on is helping them to move. They are touching the cards, right? This is almost like touching the letter. It's not something that is just written on paper. And then by matching it to the corresponding letter, their brain is actually doing something. So they're using their visual, what's it called? Visual discrimination to be able to look at, let's pick another letter. To be able to look at this letter, this is A, and say which letter looks like this. So they are using their eyes. They are looking at it. Again, please. I know we have again different senses that we may have working or not working for whatever situation it is. But the idea is to use as many senses as possible that the child has, going. So if we're using visual discrimination in this case, we have A, and then we now look, the child now checks, right, and sees, oh, this is matching, and they can say the sound again when they match it, right? So this is that's using the visual sense, using the hands as well, so the physical touch, and then pairing it to this. So there's a decision making process that goes on and a problem solving process that goes on in the brain as the child is doing this, which is helping them to grow that aspect of the brain that is still the same one that is used in mathematics. And now we're using letters to build that skill, right? So you can use something else if you have maybe two balls that are the same colors, or you have animals that you have maybe pairs of them. You can have the child hold one. I think I had one here. This was like was this a brown bear? So if I have two brown bears, for instance, with a number of other animals like maybe hen, ducks, and all that, you can have the child find a similar animal or baby animal with adult animal. That is all matching and pairing activity. Another one that is good to develop the cognitive ability, the cognitive part of the brain for a child, and again anybody really, is a sorting activity. So sorting involves you have a collection of items like this, and then you try to sort them according to a particular quality. So in this case, these are like number cubes or something. I'm not even sure I can't remember the name of the toy where this came from, but you can see there are different colors. And then we have this. This was formerly a fruit basket. I've shown in a different video how we use it to sort pom poms, but in this case, we're using it to sort these cubes, right? So you pick, if you find yellow, then you look for where the yellow compartment is, you put it there, green. So again, what is happening when the child is doing this? Decision making. They look at an object or they feel it. If it's something that they're sorting based on the texture, maybe closing their eyes and just feeling it with their hands, they can say, okay, this one feels this way. But in this case, we're looking at colors. So this is green. Now that I'm holding green, I want to put it in a place that has something green as well. So I look for green and I put it there. Right? So they are making choices, they are solving problems, they are making decisions by doing something that is very much play-based, very much hands-on, and does not even take, I'm not sure how many seconds or minutes it would take to set up an activity like this. But the thing is that when we see them doing things like this, it may just feel like, these children are just playing and playing and playing all day. But there's a lot of learning going on. And these are all things that are helping to develop the mathematical mind, the mind that they're going to use to start doing the maths as a subject ultimately, right? So, and this is like a sensorial activity, which is another aspect of the Montessori curriculum. The third activity, or the third type of activity that we can use for building the cognitive skill of the child is grading. So grading basically involves arranging things in order, maybe small, smaller, smallest, or big, bigger, biggest, or even sequencing. So I got another example here to share with us. Recently, our 4-year-old has been interested in the laundry. We have this journal, which I think I've shared with us, where I normally keep track, right, of the kids and some things that they do. We also use it in the program. So basically, I just write for the day, this was what they did, or I noticed, so and so doing this activity by herself. I think I had noticed her folding. She just picked some dresses that were already washed and started folding them into her cubby. So I said, okay, that's a nice interest to have, And then also being interested in watching us use the washing machine and the dryer. So I decided I was going to show her the full process, right, from start to finish, how to load the dresses, do this and do that. Of course, before doing this, we've already had a similar or a smaller activity of just washing with your hands, washing a small napkin, washing a plate, and all those things, right? So the purpose of the activity we now did with her, I'll call it more of a sequencing activity. So we did it together, took some pictures. This is an example. Took some pictures. Now we have the main chart, and then, as usual, I printed two copies. The second copy now became a puzzle piece. So this is something you can do again at home. Now, with the puzzle pieces, we have the activities with the pictures now in like a collection of playing cards, right? And then her task will be to arrange these activities in the order they should come, right? Okay, put on the washing machine first, or put the dresses in first, then put the washing machine. So that is a sequencing activity. And someone may not realize it, but washing your dresses every day is a mathematical activity. So if you think you're bad in math, you may not be as bad as you think, right? If you're able to follow some of these instructions. So a child being able to sequence something that, okay, or even stacking blocks, that's another very simple and straightforward one, which we have a lot of kids' toys, at that early age where they are stacking one block on top of the other. You find out that it's not even so easy to put for the child to immediately recognize that, okay, this is the biggest block, this is the next biggest or the next smallest in size, to get it in that order. You find that initially when they start off, sometimes they'll put the big one, then they'll put a small one, then a big one, right? It is as their brain is developing, as they're working on that skill, they're able to detect, okay, the weight of the smaller blocks and the bigger blocks. This is all mathematics going on, right? So you want to make sure you let them practice all these activities, because ultimately that is brain building going on, that is their cognitive ability being developed, right? So those are some examples of activities you can do to build their cognitive skills. And the funny thing is that all those activities I've listed, they are not even under the mathematical curriculum in Montessori, in the Montessori environment, right? The laundry one of washing dresses is a practical life activity. The one of sorting cubes by colors is a sensorial activity. The one about matching the letters is a language activity. So the funny thing is that, like, I think what I told the parents that were part of the program this year is that you don't want to take any subject area for granted, right? Even going to the farm, planting beans, planting, cooking, baking, right? We're going to look into those ones now as well. Almost every activity that a person does is connected to the mathematical mind and refining those cognitive skills in one way or the other, right? So that is why we don't just say, oh, the curriculum for the year, we're going to just do English and maths. No, because you're not going to develop a full, like developing the whole brain of the child by just focusing on one or two subjects, because each subject is kind of connected and spread across every other one, right? So the other aspect of the mathematical skills, we talked about cognitive development. So the second other one is executive functioning. So um, executive functioning skills, I know it's almost like a buzzword nowadays, right? But really it's about developing the executive system of the brain. Last week, funny enough, we also talked about it and how, for example, learning an additional language, or people who speak more than one language, tend to have the executive system, even the gray matter of their brain being more developed than those who speak only one language. So one of the other articles I was reading talked about how one of the best form of executive functioning exercises for the brain is to learn an extra language. Right. So in fact, it was when I saw some of the benefits of bilingualism and building that skill in children. I decided that, what, as much as we can speak English and Igbo, and we wanted to learn some other languages like French and so on. I wanted to make sure that those two that I had strong at hand, right, the English and Igbo, I wanted to make sure that I actually passed it across. Because sometimes you may find yourself being so drawn to all the other languages but your own, because you feel like, oh, those ones, you need a lot of work to learn them. You have to start now, this and that. And then you end up forgetting the ones that you have in your back pocket, right? So that was one of the reasons why we now started trying to think of how to best pass across, pass down our language to our children, which was, the motivation behind writing the book that we did, the Abechidi Igbo, which is on the Igbo alphabet, learning the Igbo alphabets the Montessori way. That was one I had shared with us earlier. So learning to speak an additional language or speaking more than one language is something that helps the child to develop their executive functioning skills. And it's one of the easiest ways because language is something you can speak every day. If you want to, another example of executive functioning skills can be built through something like baking, baking, cooking. These are all things that fall under the practical life curriculum of the Montessori curriculum. Anything that we do at home, baking, cooking, cleaning, these are activities that are almost like projects, although someone might call them operations, but really, I'll say it's a project because if you want to bake muffins, right, you have the goal to make muffins as the output. It has a clear start and finish. You have the resources to work with, you have the time, schedule, costs, quality, everything put into it. So these are all skills that the child is building from making something as simple as muffin that they're just going to eat and down with some water or some juice, right? So if you involve your children in baking, if you involve them in cooking, involve them in household chores, you are building their mathematical mind, right? And this does not take anything extra from you as long as you were already doing them before. So that's why you said that when children are involved in our everyday life, you find them being naturally smart, naturally able to do some of these mathematical activities when they now have to, do it as a subject, right? Sometimes you may even find that some people who may not have been exposed to formal education or some other things, just with a little introduction to certain subjects, you see them doing so well because they already had that background, they already had that baseline, that foundation being built in their brain, right? So to develop executive functioning skills, any household chores, any activities that has a sequence, that has a plan, to execute it, no matter how short or how long it is, this is developing their mathematical mind. And then the other one is learning a new language or using the one you already have, the ones you already have. Basically, using more than one language and using them consistently. Because if you just know a language and you don't use it, you're not building that skill, right? So those are really some of the many. Well, I think I've shared many already. So you basically pick one and start today, just knowing that mathematics is not about the subject, but it's the science of precision, order, and intelligence. Which children are born with. So um, I think that is the main thing that we'll be covering. For Montessori: mathematics, cognitive development, and executive functioning. So of course, if you have any questions, now will be the best time to share your questions, and I will be happy to answer them. Or if you have already been practicing some of these activities and you've noticed the benefit to your children, that will also be good. If you also find that maybe you've had some educational apps that you feel that are more beneficial or helpful to the children, or you've been more into the writing on the paper and quizzes, let us also know in the chat. I would like to see your perspective, maybe why you may feel one is better than the other. Otherwise, that is also fine. Yes, so let me know in the chat. I'll be looking out for that. In the meantime, I'll also talk about our Montessori home education program. So we do have that running from January to December for 2025. Registration is already open. If you haven't signed up, take advantage of the early bird pricing, which is 88 Canadian dollars, and that will be valid up till December 6th. Now, the good thing is that if you sign up for that program, you're going to cover not just language, which is English language that is focused in the program. You're going to learn how to incorporate other languages. You're also going to do mathematics, for sure. You're going to have a lot of mathematical activities that are very simple as the ones that I've shown you. And if you've ever been worried about, oh, you're not doing enough, you're not helping your children with their education, you're not really even sure what they need to do part time, then that is the program for you. Whether you are partially or fully homeschooling, that will be very helpful for you. We're also going to look into the culture and science curriculum, simple science activities to foster that creativity and curiosity in children. We equally look at social skills, music, and arts. It's so robust, and in addition to that, you have a lot of free printables. The good thing is that as I'm creating them for our children at home, we have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and even the ones that I created for them when they were infants, you have access to all these free resources. In addition to the program, of course, the curriculum is the main thing, and then the webinars that we do monthly with the activities. But you also get a lot of free resources as they come, ready to use for your children. So make sure you sign up for next year. The program kicks off in January 2025. Also, if you are interested and you haven't got your copy yet, this is our newly released book. We're very excited about it, by myself and Dr. Chido. And the good thing, my kids are already using this book. Like I said, most materials I start off with developing it for the children, and then we extend it to the public. It's very, very good quality. There's a note for parents to be able to teach their children, right? It has clear pictures, real life pictures. These are some things you want to use in any material that you're using for kids in the 0 to 6 year age range, because you want to make sure you're grounding them in reality before they start dealing with cartoon characters, fictional characters, because it is from reality that they can now build their creativity. You don't want them to be building creativity on something that is not even real, because then it can't even stand, right? But if you know what is real, then you can build on it. So I think we'll be wrapping up there for today. If you have any questions, feel free. Even if you're watching this as a replay, leave the comments and you'll get a response later on. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Temitope, for your active participation, and all who are also watching live. Thank you. Don't forget to put in the chat where you're joining from. How much do you love or dislike mathematics? And I hope you've gotten something beneficial for today. Share this link with your friends and your family, and join us again next week, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please factor in the time difference. You're welcome. Thank you very much. You're welcome. All right. So we will be signing off. Thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Bye bye.